Hello and welcome back to the Death Row and Executions channel. My name is Paco. First, an update for you on the previous video I did here on Julius Jones. Just hours before his scheduled execution, Governor Stitt of Oklahoma commuted Jones's death sentence to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In a statement from the state of Oklahoma, it reads that Governor Stitt issued an order to commute the death sentence of Julius Jones to life imprisonment on the condition that he never again be eligible to apply for, be considered for, or receive any additional commutation, pardon, or parole. Now, about 300 people had gathered at the state capitol in Oklahoma shortly before Governor Stitt made that announcement. These were mostly anti-death penalty and Julius Jones supporters, whom have been saying that Jones should be released from prison because he was wrongfully convicted, because he is innocent. Well, following the announcement from Governor Stitt, they were all celebrating, dancing, and chanting cheers of joy because Julius Jones will spend the rest of his life in prison instead of being executed. Speaking of upcoming executions, next on the list this year is Bigler Jobe Stouffer II, another execution to take place in Oklahoma. This is actually the final execution scheduled for this year in the United States.
Bigler Jobe Stouffer II, guilty of murder in the first degree, fix his punishment at death.
Bigler Stouffer was born in 1942. He is now 79 years old. He's been on death row for 36 years, since 1985. He was sentenced to death that year for the murder of a school teacher in Oklahoma named Linda Reaves. He had also received a life sentence for the attempted murder of her boyfriend, Doug Ivens. All this also happened the same year that he was convicted and sentenced. On January 24, 1985, Bigler Stouffer was at the home of Velva Ivens in Oklahoma City. Velva is now in her 70s and goes by the name Velva Pardee, but at that time she was separated from her husband Doug Ivens and dating Bigler Stouffer. Stouffer told Velva that he was headed to the post office to pick up mail. Instead, he drove to the home of Velva's husband, who she was separated from, Doug Ivens. The two were in the process of getting divorced. Now, Doug was also dating someone, a woman named Linda Reaves, who was a school teacher at Hilldale Elementary School in the Putnam City School District of Oklahoma City. So even though Bigler was dating Doug's wife, the two men had golfed together in the past and remained on friendly terms. Stouffer's purpose to visit Doug's home on previous occasions was to serve as a mediator of sorts, working out visitation scheduling and shared custody with Doug and Velva's 8-year-old daughters, and to negotiate how property and assets will be divided after the divorce. Inside the home of Doug Ivens, his girlfriend, Linda Reaves, was taking a nap on the couch. Stouffer told Doug that he was just at Velva's home, and she's worried because there are some suspicious characters lurking around outside the property that may want to break in. Doug, who became worried about something happening to Velva, and his daughters went into the bedroom to retrieve a gun that he kept in a bank bag, a .357 Magnum Colt Python. Doug handed Bigler Stouffer the bag. Stouffer turned his back to Doug, reached into the bag, pulled out the gun, turned around, and shot Doug twice. One bullet went into Doug's chest and the other into his arm. The sounds of gunfire awakened Doug's girlfriend, Linda Reaves. As she was sitting up from the couch, Stouffer then fired 2 shots into her head, killing her. One of the shots went through the palm of Linda Reaves' hand as she was holding her hand up to her head. Stouffer then walked back over to Doug Ivens, lying on the floor, and realizing Ivens was still alive, Stouffer shot him a 3rd time, this time in the face. Stouffer then left the gun on a seat cushion on the couch beside Linda Reaves' dead body. He left the house and from there went to the post office. What Bigler Stouffer didn't know is that while he was driving to the post office, Doug Ivens, with shots to his arm, chest, and face, managed to crawl his way over to a telephone and called 911. Doug told the dispatcher what happened and gave the address to his wife, Velva Ivens' home, to where Bigler Stouffer was likely headed. Stouffer did what he had to do at the post office and, sure enough, headed back to Velva's place. By the time he got there, police were already waiting. One must wonder what was going through Stouffer's head when he saw police there. Either what in the world happened at Velva's house, or I can't believe those 2 dead bodies were discovered so quickly and police are already here investigating and asking questions, as Stouffer must have surely expected would eventually happen. Bigler Stouffer was arrested. When Stouffer found out that Doug Ivens was still alive, he must have thought, oh crap, that man is going to tell the story of what happened in that house. So Stouffer had to come up with a story of his own. And that was conveyed at trial. Now here's the story that Bigler Stouffer came up with. He said that he was having dinner with Velva and Velva's girls, and when they returned home, he got a phone call from Doug Ivens asking him if he would come over so they can talk. Stouffer agreed and went over there. Now, he said that after he entered the house, from his position, he was able to see a woman's legs spread across a couch. He went over to Doug Ivens, who he said offered him money to settle a dispute regarding property between him and Velva. But Stouffer said he would not be a part of any scheme to do that. And when he refused, he says that Doug Ivens pulled a gun from his waist and pointed it at him. The 2 men then struggled over the gun, and while they were struggling, the gun went off 4 times. 2 of them struck Doug, and that the other 2 bullets must have struck his girlfriend in the head while she was lying on the couch. He would later say that if Linda wasn't struck by ricocheting bullets, that maybe she was already dead when he had arrived at the house and that Doug had killed her. Now, because investigative forensics clearly show that that 5th bullet, which struck Doug Ivens in the face, was fired from above while Doug was lying on the floor, Bigler Stouffer said that he was standing over Doug and thought he saw Doug reaching for another gun tucked into his waist, which means that Doug Ivens was walking around his house prior to Stouffer's arrival with 2 guns tucked in the waist of his pants. Anyway, Stouffer said that's when he shot Doug again. He thought that Doug was reaching for another gun. So he then placed the gun on the couch beside Linda Reaves' dead body and went on his merry way to the post office. At the trial, Velva Ivens stated that Bigler Stouffer had been worried about her leaving him and going back to her husband. The prosecution also pointed out that there was a $2 million life insurance policy for Doug Ivens and that Velva was still the beneficiary. So not only did Stouffer want to hold on to Velva if she was thinking of leaving him, he was likely hoping to eventually also get his hands on that money. The jury began deliberations and returned less than an hour later to the courtroom with a verdict of guilty. The judge later sentenced Bigler Stouffer to death, and just in case he returns from the dead after being executed, he was also sentenced to life in prison for the attempted murder of Doug Ivens. If you enjoy these upcoming execution videos, go ahead and subscribe to this channel so that you are alerted when the next video comes out. I am Paco Rivera. Bye for now.